Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Awaken to Your Soul Path. I'm your host, Barbara, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Lora Danielson. And we are going to be talking about what it is like to awaken to your inner knowing and to align with your soul purpose. And I've been looking forward to this talk because we are both on a similar type of path. And I think lots of people are at least experiencing changes and shifts and not really knowing where that is going. So I'm hoping that we get to inspire them today. So thank you for coming, Laura.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Me too. You are already in a very beautiful location with lots of sunshine, if the light on your face is any indication. So, what made you choose this topic for us today?
It has been one that has been a roller coaster of a ride for myself. As much as I've always been in love with like the supernatural, the paranormal, like the belief that we're more than human throughout my life, like everybody, I've had like such amazing and huge ups and downs where, like I've just overburdened with some of the heaviness of life, and but I was always that person to find that positive um spin on everything that kind of came my way. But however, I wasn't like really knowledgeable on how to shift it and make it better.
Hmm.
So as I got to this part of my journey, I had been bedridden for the better part of 2.5 years. So I had all but thought my life was over, that the medication had really like shifted um me from like my memory had kind of stopped with it. I had no focus, no balance, like I was in a really bad state. So when I found the process that took that away and shifted my life again, I was like, oh, life is going to be perfect. Like I knew there was more to this than being just human. Like I was absolutely ecstatic. And so instantly, like I have multiple diplomas and certificates and stuff within like business and marketing management, travel and tourism, like all of these things. And instantly my brain was like, oh, I'm just going to go back to work 20 hours a day and get my life back. And
Yeah.
the universe had other plans for me. So
Hmm.
as that awakening took place, as I realized that I was more meant to share the process that changed my life, that saved my life, um, that kept spiraling down different rabbit holes. So, in realizing how many rabbit holes are available for people to go down, some
Hmm.
of them great, some of them not so great,
Yes.
recognizing that choosing the more positive, the light side of things, um, recognizing that there's so many different paths, and they all lead to that same place, that soul awakened, that inspired action. And but there's so many, I don't know, like I say, detours, rabbit holes, just so
Yeah.
many things that can catch your attention. So once you've awakened, if you don't have that solid, like for me, I feel like I was blessed in a sense that all the way through I've always looked for that positive spin on everything, and I knew
Silver
that.
lining.
Yeah, right, the silver lining,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So in looking for that, in coming out of such a hard part of my life,
Mm.
instantly I was like, I have to share the light, like I want to elevate people, I want to inspire people. And so uh, but that didn't change that I hit so many different rabbit holes and so many things that had come up within the 2 or 3 years leading up. Like while my pain was really bad, there was a lot of, different types of like maybe psychic attacks, if you want to call them that, and just a lot of negativity that I had surrounded myself with because
Mm.
I didn't feel inspired to be in a really good place at that point. Like as my health was really deteriorating, I had a really hard time uplifting
Yeah.
myself. In that last couple years where I was bedridden, I didn't talk to my friends. I cut myself off from the outside
Yeah.
world. So that really, in seeing how many negative ways that this journey can go, and because we are creating our own space in our own lives, and what comes next, we might not understand how that's being created, where it started from. And so that's really what drew me to actually create my program and actually um, go so much further with it to be able to guide and lead and just give people inspiration on their soul path to show that no matter how heavy life feels, no matter where this has taken you, you can always, it's always within your power to shift it.
I
For
love
some
that.
people, it might take more work, depending, because I know, every
Hmm.
upbringing was different. Some people are coming from very, very difficult places.
Yes.
Recognize that soul awakening and
Hmm.
then get stuck in the loops that can be created of getting almost out of that negativity, and then a cycle presents itself and then end up right back at the beginning.
Yes. Yeah, I recognize that. I work a lot with the human design system and the gene key systems because they gave me every answer that to every question I've ever had. And I learned by working with those that some have a different path than others, and some paths are more experimental with more ups and downs than for others. And for some, the trials are different than for others. So everybody has their unique path to walk, but it can sometimes be very lonely, and especially when you're having a life path that needs to go through lots of up and downs because there's so many lessons that you need to learn in order for you to step into the thing that you came here to do. My path is one of those. Then it's very hard and very difficult, and it can be very lonely. And I am also one of those people that have learned to look for the silver lining. You think, yeah, this sucked big time, but what did I learn from it? What is the one positive thing that I can take away from this experience? And what will I never ever do again in the future? Or what must I do next time? Or whatever it is. Maybe you met someone that was really great. Or maybe you discovered that something you were afraid of doesn't happen when you're pushed to that point, or whatever it is. If you can find the silver lining in the shit, in whatever is happening, then that is already half the battle.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and the best thing that I think that I learned coming forward, because finding the silver lining didn't move me into my awakening any faster. It didn't take the emotion out of the trigger or out of the experience. So the two, I guess, well, there's multiple things that I've kind of basically stepped into within this new, experience for me, where in shifting these few things has made it a whole lot different for me, is looking at the experiences in more than just finding the silver lining, but why would I have chosen to put myself through this? As a
Yeah.
soul coming down to the earth, why would I have chosen to experience this in this way? Why did I choose that horrible person to come into my life? Why did I choose to be within a family and friend system that so many throughout the like my entire life from the time I was 4 that I lost everybody closest to me, and
Mhm.
what would be my purpose within their soul journey, and what is their purpose within my soul journey, and how what why did I find it so necessary to choose to be within this much loss and whatnot. So, and I have over time found the answer to those questions, which is really nice.
Yes.
However, but it took that shift in perception and just, looking at it from that it's
Yeah.
happening for me, not to me, and not just for me, but I chose this. I,
Hmm.
as a soul, came here to experience this in this way. So,
Yeah.
um, in looking at it that way, what did I learn? What did I
Yeah.
take from
Yeah.
choosing these things? And then the next realization is that as you start to recognize the different emotions and their and how they are tied to each experience, and how we're not necessarily taught how to process them fully, and let them go, because every experience is just to elevate us. It's just to show us what we do or do not want. So a bad experience is like, okay, well, I experienced the sadness, or experience the anger. I don't have to hold on to that. I can now let that go. And it happens in layers. So there may be one experience from this lifetime that has absolutely had you like tied into like this negative feeling and emotion. However, it might be from a further timeline. Like it might be from a past lifetime that you're still holding on to this this emotion. So
Yeah.
if you're hanging on to something so deeply and you start your healing journey and you've healed from within this lifetime, but there's still a cycle presenting itself, then you're one of those souls that chose to come here to take care of karmic entanglement and, you know, maybe some past family traumas, ancestral traumas, like all of those things. So it's like you say, each person chose and has a unique soul experience to have here. So some things may go a lot easier than for other people. And so when you look, but then if you're looking at somebody and if you're again looking at another soul here to learn and have that experience, and they're having like this blessed life and everything is perfect and they're happy and they have money flowing, you don't know what their past life entanglement was. This might be their, you know, free ride essentially, where they've already been through so much in a past life where they've dealt with that karmic cycle, you know, and this was their chance to actually experience life as it's meant to be experienced with, you know, gratitude and love and happiness in you know in that sense where they've actually successfully completed, you know, that learning journey that we're here on. And they get to, so you know, so being able to take out of the judgment of other people's journeys has been another just huge elevation for me.
Yes, yes. I completely agree and understand all of it. I was also thinking, did you notice, for me, my why shifted. When I first heard that you chose this life, that your soul chose this, or, well, they start by saying you chose this. So at first I thought, why the hell would I choose this? Why
Right.
would I choose a family like this? Why would I choose this happening and that happening and that happening and that? No sane person would choose this willingly. So in the beginning, I had a lot of resistance to you chose this. I thought, fuck no. I would never have chosen this if I had known this, right? No, 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 no. And it isn't until you start learning more about this that there's a difference between you choosing this and your soul choosing this. That is already a huge difference. You as a human would never have chosen all of this. You as a soul, that's what people are actually talking about, but not always naming as such. And then still, why would I as a soul choose things like this? So when you get over the no, I would never have chosen this, then you can go into the well, okay, so if my soul chose this, then not me, but my soul, then why would a soul choose something like this? You can start looking at it in a different way, and that opens up a whole new avenue of why questions.
Exactly. And, you know, and when you start the journey, no matter who you start with, no matter what mentor you find, no matter what community you're in, they always start with like, find your why. And I found my whys, like you said, they've shifted so much because they started as human whys. Why, as a human, would I have chosen this? Why, as you know, like, why would I allow so much trauma? Why, you know, like, why would I want all of these things? And then they shifted, like you say, into that soul. And um you know, and a big part of that is becoming like the realization that we're not our bodies or our minds, because if you can hear your thoughts and you can control your thoughts and you can stop your thoughts, then who's actually having those thoughts? Because I've noticed like the difference between like my true self, like my whole thoughts, they're very quiet, they're more impressions, it's more like that, you know, oh, I'm just all of a sudden, it's the automatic stuff that we do. It's the picking up a cup without having to tell our hands individually that we're picking up our cups. You know,
Yes.
my head is actually a lot quieter now since I've discovered my soul path. And I spend a lot of time grounding and calling in the energies from above and below and just really just being very in flow with all of the energies that's available to us. Because if we are relying on our human form and our human construct to create and stuff, that's where you get like um you know, a lot of maybe experiences that you're not actually excited about, because you
Yes.
know, they're, the ego was designed to protect us.
Yes.
So when it and if it wasn't designed to work alone either, it was just one part of a model of multiple different layers. but
Hmm.
we've left it alone for so long that so many people get stuck in that survival mode, that
Yeah.
protection mode. And it's like, I'm not in survival. Like, and they're in this. And as you start to awaken and as you start to become consciously aware of the programs, when you start to control the front of your mind, but you're still ignoring some of those like negative inputs from the back door, the negative inputs from the back door are the ones that are still consciously creating your life, or unconsciously creating your life. To become that full conscious creator, to become in that positive construct, finding your soul wise requires as that space between thoughts. It requires that um that the dulling of the noise back there that's been
Yeah.
created out of that sheer survival. If the ego is the only thing protecting us, it doesn't want us to go any higher than it's ever let us go before. So it's going to let you get out of one really bad situation. However, there's so much behind the scenes. There's so much more abilities. There's so much um I would call it this, just our psychic abilities that we ignore, that intuition, as that
Yeah.
starts to awaken and become a voice. You can start to feel kind of crazy in that way, because you're just like,
Yes.
you've dulled it for so long that it's like, who do I listen to now? And the ego is such a prominent voice to begin with that it's hard to differentiate between the two. Or the
Yes.
whisper, you can pick out the whisper, but as they become more confident, and as you're as you turn up your intuition and your source guidance and all of your guides guidance, they start to sound the same. So it's getting your ego on board to recognize that we're not alone. You're not alone anymore. We've called in the other guides. You get to actually be on board with this, because I'm never
Hmm.
going to abandon you by yourself again, right?
Hmm.
And then that ego starts to be like, okay, I
Yeah.
actually like this. We can enjoy this. We're okay. We're allowed to have fun, and we're
Yeah.
allowed to enjoy what we're doing now, because I'm not alone. Because
Mm.
that's where all of that comes from. I've Even our worst situation that we've survived, that is our ego's like highest point of survival. So, or lowest point of survival, however you want to view it. And basically, and it's like, okay, well, I've rescued you. Like, we've survived this. So this is the only type of situation I know that I can protect you from. So let's stay within that experience. So I know that you're protected. And that's why it gets so complicated, the kind of the further you go to heal. So with what I share with people, I start generally at mindset and just kind of starting to be aware of those inner voices and how to, shift them into the more positive frame without just affirmations, because affirmations can be great. But then you have to worry about your universal laws. So the law of polarity. If you're telling yourself something you don't truly believe, you're going to bring in the opposite of what you're telling yourself, because you
Yes.
don't believe it. So you don't have to believe in your journey. You don't have to believe in anything that I'm saying here. I didn't believe in the process that changed my life. There was no belief. There was no recognition that this was going to change anything for me.
No.
The point where that belief system comes into play is once you've awakened, once you are aware, once you recognize and there is a belief that there is something more, and you want to make that big shift, you want to end those higher cycles, that is when some of the deeper work, especially if you've one of those souls that chose to come in to do the family healing, the
Hmm.
ancestral healing, the karmic tie healing, you are the souls that are going to find yourselves down rabbit hole after rabbit hole,
Yeah.
looking for how to align and shift and change. And that's where the superconscious recode, or in I've shortened it down to just a recode. And it's not even, to me, even recoding, it's decoding. It's taking off the old programming and
Yes.
allowing your true version of you to come through, because you don't have to recreate who you are. You end up lost, because some people get lost in that identity shift, in that identity, as they start to let go of that old programming. And you're not actually at all changing anything about you. You're shedding the old programming, you're releasing the old emotions to the traumatic events that have happened through your life, and you're allowing that truest version of your soul to come through. So you don't have to recreate you. The real you is just going to emerge
Mm.
as you shed the old programming.
You need to reconnect with your deepest truth. And
That's
because
right.
most people, we look for answers outside of ourselves. And there are a couple of really great things that you just shared in your story that I want to touch back on. So, yes, we have ego. And lots of people blame ego for everything, and ego is the bad guy. But ego is not the bad guy. Ego is just a very rudimentary system that stems from when we were cave people. So nothing complicated, and it's really ego's job is to keep us safe. And how does it keep us safe? By making sure we are not in danger. And whenever we try to change something, whenever we try to do something that we've never done before, then that is unknown. And unknown can be potentially dangerous. So it wants us to move away from the unknown, and then it has saved us from danger or potential danger. It's nothing more than that system. So, yes, ego is something that plays a part, but another really big influence is the voice of our upbringing and I call them the rules, the bullshit rules of society, the way you're supposed to behave, the way you're supposed to act, the things you're supposed to do. A lady does not do this, a lady always does that, or a gentleman does this, or any type of those things, or the voice of your parents saying, oh, you shouldn't eat that, you're already fat enough, or other voices, right? And sometimes it becomes this whole big mess of beliefs and autopilot programs and stuff. And when you've had a childhood that has lots of trauma in it, or even when you've had a really good childhood, I've also seen it with people with a really good childhood. So it's not necessary to have a shitty childhood to have beliefs or patterning that you need to reprogram. It's just things that you keep hearing over and over again, they stay stuck within your system. And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work. But many of us, we don't stop to think, well, is this my truth? This might be
That's
my mother's truth, this might be my grandmother's truth, or father, grandfather, teacher, uncle, aunt, whoever says something. But we don't stop to think, is this my truth? And when we just take things over without analyzing it and seeing if it's true for us, then sometimes we get lucky and it works in our advantage. And sometimes we are not so lucky and it blocks us or it hinders us. So there's a lot of things that play a part in your opening up to becoming who you always were, but just were cut off from. Because that is, in the end, I think, the entire process. And to get there, many of us feel we need to heal more, or we need to do more, we need to learn more, we need to take action more. But most of those things are outside of ourselves, even when we are looking for healing. And we're healing stuff within ourselves, but we're still looking to outside modalities for doing those things. And in the end, everything you need is already within yourself. But for a large variety of reasons, we've just been cut off from that, or we moved away from that. And it's about reconnecting to nature, reconnecting to spirit, reconnecting to your innermost self, reconnecting to your intuition, reconnecting to the natural ability of the body to heal. All of these things. And that is a journey, and it can be well, it's definitely a beautiful journey, but it can also be a very challenging journey, especially when you're listening to the wrong people or getting the wrong advice, or when you feel like you need to do everything by yourself, whether or not that's true. There are many different things that play a role in well, your journey and the lessons that you're learning. But in the end, everything you need, everything you want, all the answers that you're looking for, they are within yourself.
that's right. Everything external, you know what, when we're tied down on some of the heavier parts of our journey, sometimes going inside becomes is the challenge. It is the
Oh,
part that's
for
blocked off.
sure.
So the decoding, it's not me doing anything for you. It's doing something with you. I attach with the permissions and the proper permissions, I go and we go inside. I work with your higher self. And on top of that, I have got my mastery in energy work. So I use that as well. I don't just, it's not just words to me. I actually go in and I watch the process take place within myself. It's all I was taught, and utilize my lessons within using colors and how colors are representative of the different information. I get a lot of things from imprints. although my clair audio and like all of my clairs are starting to really elevate. And I said
Yeah.
yesterday, I said I don't know, and as a medium, I don't know that I'm ever going to get really used to some of the extra voices that come through. But at the same time, I didn't think I was going to get used to giving readings and pulling myself back within after giving somebody a reading, because every time I go into readings, I connect my higher self, I connect with guys, very much an open channel. So when I do that and I pull myself back in, it's like, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get used to that. And I have over time. So I know that over time, like it will become more comfortable, and all of the little things that kind of come with the journey, because even if you're not expecting it, that's kind of maybe the benefits, like as you're starting to elevate your soul journey and as you start to come into your own and recognize your intuition, you get to, you also have access to guides, you have access to source, um and as your higher self becomes more integrated, as you become feeling more whole, that's a voice that becomes your own. So as much as you can still, like, if you feel separated from it, it's like, okay, I'm calling in that, that wholeness and feeling of one, like, but I still need some extra insight here. My ego is playing a role, because the ego does like to say, hey, I'm still here, I've come out to play today, and take you backwards a few yards from where you might feel like you've been comfortable and calm and at peace and everything felt like it's moving good, but then say maybe something you tried to manifest didn't come through the way that you expected it to or wanted it to, or you haven't been able to create exactly the way that you want, recognizing that, oh, there might be an old programming, and as soon as you recognize that old program, that ego is going to step in and be like, okay, here's here's some human emotion, like here you're gonna feel like you haven't made all these,
Yes.
because that is, again, as you get through and actually get to find your way past the old cycles, um the ego becomes quieter and quieter and more appreciative and more loving, and more like that supportive voice that it's meant to be. It doesn't have to be a negative ninny to keep you safe. It just literally needs to know that it's not alone, that there is other help coming in for you. And but every so often, when you come across an old trigger, an old cycle that maybe still needs a little bit of an attention from you, um then that's when you'll find it's like, okay, so what cycle is this? But at that point, like when it does become that um infrequent, it'll be a lot easier to, a lot faster to kind of step through those cycles.
Yes.
I think the most beautiful thing about what I've found is, like, with doing that decoding, it's it moves things a lot faster, because you, like you said, the cycles, and that you can create new ones for yourself that you might not have had before. The belief that you have to heal more, the belief that you're blocked, because something didn't flow the way you expected it to. And there may still be something that you're expected to heal, like there but it's knowing the difference between, okay, did I just create my own cycle believing that I need to be healed, I need to do more, I need to, or is this again another cycle? So that is where some of the time can come into play. But being willing to step through a process that kind of helps you walk through with your higher self, because I don't just do this with people, I've actually taught it within the in the constructs of, like, my program that I created, because I know that some, I mean, there's the people that are always going to want that extra help, because I know for the longest time that I felt like I couldn't use my gifts for myself, they were meant for other people. And so
Mhm.
I had to shed that belief before my gifts actually became a benefit and of use to myself, because the whole time I actually was within my healing space and learning my energy. I wasn't necessarily saying that I was doing it for myself. I was doing this to make life better for other people. I wanted to heal other people. I wanted to give people what I had already experienced, believing that the healing of my pain was like the end all be all for me, like that was like that big step for me, and that was the only thing that I needed, that was the only thing that was going to give me my life back, was um that particular part of my healing journey. And yeah, my obviously I had definitely other things to do, a lot more things to do. The layers just kept coming. However, as those
That's also
layers,
it, right? Depending on how deep something went when it happened, you will keep encountering it until also the root of that thing, whatever it was, that event is gone. So lots of people always ask me, I already worked on that. Why is it coming back? Or why does it keep coming back? And I see us as an onion where we peel back layers. And with every layer that we peel back, when it's penetrated that deeply, we have to deal with it in that layer again. And every time we are ready to up level into a higher version of ourselves, because we cannot go from here to higher self in one step, there are steps in between. So every time we up level to a higher version of ourselves, we get triggered in a lot of our old patterns, in our old fears, in our old beliefs, to see if we are really ready for the next step, if we've really let go of everything we need to let go of in order to get there.
Exactly that, and that's like a huge part of it because as I peel back, so when I do timeline therapy sessions, I start with anger and we start there. And I've had people, well, I don't have anger issues. It's like, but you know what? Let's just pretend one day that you had an angry experience, whether you have anger issues or you live in anger or you're quick to anger. Like, let's just say that, there has been a time in your life where you felt angry at somebody, and let's, start there. And because a lot of people don't recognize that they've went, because a lot of times when I've been angry myself, it started in sadness. I was sad and disappointed
Yeah.
and then became angry because they didn't see my sad and disappointment, right? So it can be, but anger is that explosion of of an emotion. And um and then at the bottom of that, the one that's actually caught me off guard the most, that kind of even has been just more in recent work with people, is guilt. As you let go of that anger, as you let go of that sadness, there's almost, for one, there may be a guilt that you felt just briefly in the experience of anger, where maybe it was just like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, right? Like that, just that, did I wreck that person's day? Oh my God, I'm such a horrible person. Like just those light words that we tell ourselves aren't so light. And then to the guilt of, I've let go of my emotion because now I felt so bad about doing this that I don't want to find myself in that cycle. I don't want to make somebody feel like that again. So now so now I'm like, so I know to trigger anger in a similar experience. I know to trigger sadness in a similar experience, so I don't get angry, so I can maybe rethink. Like, you're going through all the processes. So when you let go of that anger, when you let go of the sadness, when you're working through those layers, and they can take, you can do them moment to moment. You can become aware and start working on this moment to moment, or we can go through and actually heal this all at once and bring it through all at once. And then that way, it speeds up that process. You're not spiritually bypassing, you're literally using spirit, your guide, your higher self, that highest version of you is going through and helping you actually clean up the emotion, keeping the lesson. You're not forgetting anything. The lesson will still be there, but you'll be able to go back and observe that experience. So this can take that level of emotion out of that experience and give you
Yes.
the opportunity to find the why you chose it.
Yes.
um and as you're going through those, then you find guilt. Well, what I've recognized as of late in the last couple of weeks is that guilt can feel like that feeling of meh. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
sad, I'm not happy, I'm just
Yeah.
meh. Yeah. And that's a guilty feeling. That's that in between of, and you might be finding at that point, if you're already in that meh, if whether you're doing a recode process or a decode process, or doing it moment to moment as you're becoming aware and aware of each individual emotion, you can find yourself um in a space of meh. And then, of course, if you don't recognize it as guilt, because it sat differently in me. I didn't recognize it even within myself. It was like all of a
Mm.
sudden I felt like my anxiety had triggered again, and I'm like, I haven't been anxious in over like 2 years now,
Yeah.
and I'm like, why do I all of a sudden have this tightness in my chest? Like, where is this coming from? And recognizing that, oh, I'm like, could it be guilt and worry? And so at that awareness, I was like, oh, it is guilt and worry. So I do the process on myself, and I go back and talk myself through all the way through until I feel that feeling lift off my chest. And I'm like, okay, that's better. And then I'd be talking to somebody else that we'd been working together, and I'm like, are you feeling meh? And they're like, yes, I am. And away we'd go again. So, it was, but it's all learning because, I always tell people, like, if you get into a funk, if you get into depression, if we do this work and you all of a sudden just are in a state that you don't recognize, let's talk and let's see where, it takes us. But when you get into a state of meh, where you're not happy or sad and nothing feels bad or good, it's comfortable, because we've made guilt comfortable. Behind all of these strong emotions, guilt has just been a comfortable emotion to be in, which is weird, but it is how we're designed, and it's our belief system. It's what we're not taught on how to process and get through, and how our layers of emotion work within our bodies. And so in releasing the meh, I've seen so many more smiles, and so much more relaxed, so much less stress and comfortability in those people, that it's like, okay, like like there's just that recognizing of how
Hmm.
the layers transform and what they can look like. Because there is some people that I've helped that instantly they're like, I don't know what to do, like I don't feel angry or sad, but there's this like unlike letting that's not letting go. And at that point, I was just naturally going into guilt, just from my training and all of that stuff that I've had. And
Hmm.
and it would work for them. But in the people that meh is there, and maybe just that slight worry, they don't recognize that. And then again, that's coming back to, that can be that same first experience, that root cause. We may have
Yes.
got to that root cause.
Hmm.
However, if you dealt with one part of what came forth in that root cause, you might have experienced on different levels and different layers all the different emotions that can
Yes.
come up in that one experience, can be a root cause for multiple more different cycles that you are actually experiencing. And that is like where I've found people end up there. Like you said, like it's like, well, I've already dealt with this, so why am I back there? And it's like, well, you dealt with the biggest part of it. However, it's still a contributor to maybe some of the smaller, what we would seemingly call small things, but are still interrupters in our being led down and being able to achieve alignment into
Hmm.
our soul purpose.
Yes. Oh, I love this talk, Laura. We're hitting some really great points. And if you are following our talk here today, we would love to hear from you. Maybe you have an experience like this. We would love to hear from you. Maybe you have an insight or a question. Whatever is the case, leave a comment below this video and let us know your insight, your question, your experience. We would love it. I can also imagine that you feel like, oh, I want to talk to Laura because I feel this resonance and I want to explore what she has to offer. So if people want to contact you or want to work with you, Laura, where can they best find you?
So my website is notallwhowanderarlost.love, and it's also Not All Who Wander Are Lost. I have a page on Facebook as well, and Instagram is far from ordinary underscore oracle. And yeah, so those are three of the main places that you will find me.
Perfect. Don't worry if this went too fast. I will make sure that all the links Laura just mentioned are included in the show notes of this episode. So they will be in the description of the video, probably below the video, could be to the sides, but they will be there. So look for them. If you want to reach out to me and talk to me, then that is also possible. My links will also be in there. And for today, I just really want to thank you for being here, Laura, and sharing your journey and your process with us. It's been wonderful.
Oh, I've loved it. Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. Thank you also for being a supporter for this channel. If you are new here, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you will never miss an interview like this again. And if you felt that this was a valuable talk, then it would mean the world to both of us if you could share it with your audience, because you never know who needed to hear this talk or the things that we touched upon in our talk today. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a supporter. And to everybody, have an amazing rest of your day.
Have a great day, everybody.